Welcome to another edition of Making Happen. Today I have Mark Wolfgram from Special Olympics, Wisconsin. Thanks for joining me, Mark.
Thank you very much for having me.
This is a different way of doing things because usually I would have you in person, but with COVID and everything, the new digital world has had many of us turned upside down in some form or fashion. So
Yes, it does. And for someone who is very old school, I'm learning a lot in the new technology era.
So Mark, do you want to introduce yourself to my audience? What drew you to Special Olympics, Wisconsin? How did you get started? That type of thing.
All right. And again, thank you very much for having me. I've been involved in Special Olympics for over 45 years. I started as a sophomore in high school. And the story is I was sitting on my couch reading the paper, and there was an ad in the paper that says they were looking for volunteers for the track meet down at, and I'm from, Neenah High School. So I said I wasn't doing anything, went down there. They put me in charge of the running and standing long jump, and I've been involved since then. I've been local program manager and clinician and volunteer. And
I know that you were my region athletic director at one time or another.
Yes.
For Region
yes.
4, yes.
Yes. So that, and I now help. I currently am the senior director of field services. So I work with our 150 plus programs throughout the state, and then I also do some stuff internationally. Nationally and internationally as well.
So what do you think keeps you coming? What keeps you coming back year after year? 45 years is a long time to,
Well, there's a couple of things. One, people such as yourself, Ed, just the passion. You're taking Special Olympics to the next step in programs such as this. Involvement of you in the leadership aspect of it and such. I also have gotten all of my kids, I have 4 kids, all involved in Special Olympics. A couple of them now live in other states, but they help out at their local programs in the other states. So it's just kind of help getting that next generation.
And how does that make you feel as a father?
It's pride. It's great to see the passion, the connection that they have in the program, the understanding, the love for Special Olympics. So my youngest son was actually a unified partner at the 2018 USA Games, the soccer team we took from Wisconsin. So he's the true passion gives you the warm and fuzzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So is it what gets you? Is it seeing the athletes grow? Because you've been in it 45 years. Do you have any stories you want to share of an athlete that you've seen, like a couple of athletes that you've seen really grow over time that you still keep in touch with, or do you have any stories you would like to?
Well, it's funny because I don't remember a lot from my very early days, but as I got more involved in the the 80s and 90s and seeing the athletes, of the passion they have for the sport, and then they're becoming now they're becoming coaches. Travis Stuckert's one of them. Ed, your role as a leader, both as a just kind of an ambassador on multiple levels, having you and Megan part of my leadership team, and getting that view that, seeing it from another side, it's the way it needs to be and the way it should be going in the path and growth of not only Special Olympics, but Special Olympics, at our, at our state level. My goal, or I would love to see eventually, an athlete as one of our main, whether it be a CEO or a leader within our organization, eventually.
I always told Jeannie that I would like her job, so maybe someday I'll get Jeannie's job.
I'm only going to be doing my job for another couple of years, so I'll let her know and send me your resume, and we'll get that training going.
Are you serious about that? Are you gonna are you gonna be a lifer? Are you thinking about retiring soon?
Well, I'm older than I look, and so we all retire eventually. So I have a time frame when that happens. But as I told my boss and others that I would like to, the next person in line, work with them for about a year, just so they understand all of the various aspects of the role, and then just say, here you go.
So you said you work with all 150 local programs.
Yes.
What as field services as field services? What is your role? What do you work with them on? What do you
Well,
do?
that's a great question. The field services is the role. It's sometimes I refer to it as the dark side, but it's the opposite side of sports. So, there's certain requirements we have to do as a program, from accreditations, making sure that they're following the procedures sent down from Special Olympics Inc. and Special Olympics North America. We as a state have policies and stuff, and then we pass that on. Some of it is, the new ones talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, and making sure that those policies and such. I work on discipline. I'm the paperwork.
Okay.
Opposite side of sports.
I know during one of our athlete leadership council meetings, because we changed it to athlete leadership, now it's the athlete input council. We changed the name. That you were talking about the code of conduct and changing that up and asking us for advice of how you and how is that process going? Are you still working on that?
Well, we put together some additional languages. And now we're working on what we had was the original code of conduct was just a whole bunch of words. And, you and I've had a lot of conversations as to how do you get the larger masses to understand what what they're seeing. So we added visuals to that. Well, now we've done it, and we've created for a Spanish version and a Hmong version. Those are two kind of the more common languages within the state of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And then we're working on putting visuals to those as well. So
are you going to have an English version too, though? Are you going to have a readout for, or let's say if I want to help you out with some voice stuff, or like reading out like this is this comprehends with this. Are you still looking for people to help with that, or?
Yes, that's on the list. We're looking at kind of when we can do that project, because it won't be easy. So we're kind of saying we need a couple of weeks to do that. So we're kind of putting that. It's going to occur in 2021. It's just a matter of what date where it slides in. Now that we're getting back to, track is starting for some of the regions, and you've got swimming and all of those events. So just kind of figuring that time available to do that. But to add yes to both things that we will be creating a readout version. Okay. As well as we will be reaching out to you and the leadership team to help us do that.
Now, I have a question that I didn't tell you ahead of time, but hopefully you have the answer. And I get a lot of calls from athletes from Oshkosh because our former agency manager left. But who is Oshkosh agency manager? Like, because Jeannie, she's like, ask Mark. He'll know who your agency manager is. So I'm kind of putting you on the spot. But do you know who my agency manager is? Because I get a lot of calls or emails from other athletes. We don't know who our agency manager is. They haven't reached out to us.
Yep, and we're working on that because she's in the process of putting together a team. It's Deb Hoff,
Okay.
who's kind of in that role right now, but she's putting together a team. The goal was to make sure that the Oshkosh Special Olympics program continued. All
Yeah.
right, so
Yeah.
whether Debbie Hoff is short term or long term, we wanted to make sure that someone was in place that understood Special Olympics and could at least take the mantle, if
Yeah.
take that torch. But she's putting together a great team to work, and that's kind of been our goal, is to, rather than one individual running a program, having multiple people, and kind of the old adage, lighten the load. So many hands make light work.
Because
So
I know this year they weren't offering track, but then I reached out to you because I still wanted to compete. And he was like, "All you need is a local coach." So I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting on that. I wanted to get back out there because of COVID." So
yeah, and she was brand new at that time, so
yeah,
it was that in between sort of thing. So we've been working with her on, here's what's coming up from bowling and softball and all of those other sports coming up. Debbie Hoff and that program now has those,
yeah.
and we'll be sending out some documents today.
So
Uh,
is it okay that I got my own coach and my
yes,
own coach and stuff? And because I asked permission ahead of time, I'm like, "Is this
yep.
okay?"
Yes, and we did some checking, and you're not the only one that had requested that, because as you and I talk, it is a unique time.
Mm.
So what can we do to get people active, but also being safe and looking at different things and stuff? So your suggestion of being able to come up works perfect,
Yeah.
and we think that things will, the old adage, knock wood, Ed, that in the coming weeks and months, things will be closer to normal, and as we work towards that. So
Do you think Oshkosh will have bocce, or if I wanted to start bocce team with my Class A coach that I have now, could I go ahead? Could I go ahead and start that? And I
I
would just tell you about it, or who would I tell?
yeah, well, you would tell both Debbie Hoff,
Yeah.
your local program manager, and
Okay.
Kurt Evans, who is the athletic director for Regions 4 and 5. Just letting
Okay.
them know. And Kurt and I are connected by a wall, so he and I talk every day. So we would.
Yeah, because when I talked to Kurt, he's like, I didn't know Oshkosh was doing track this year. I'm like, technically we're not, but I still wanted to compete. It's me and another athlete. It's just us two. So it's
Yeah,
us two with the Class A coach. So
yeah. He's working on all of the track information as we speak.
anyway, enough about that. On to the leadership conference.
Okay.
It's inclusion no matter the distance, right?
Correct. The goal is let's look at and expand our horizons. All right. So making sure that everybody understands the idea of diversity, equitable.
Equity.
Yes. Obviously 3 cups of coffee isn't enough, and then inclusion. So a lot of what we're talking about is how to accomplish that and take that to the next step. So there's a section run by Jeannie and your council on that. We're talking a little bit on senior athletes, and we're looking at how do we bring those athletes that have stopped participating back into that, and looked at some new sports and things to
And
do that.
Mark, don't quote me on this, but I think that our average age of our athletes, like mid 30s, 33, 34, 35, something like that, in the mid 30s.
Yes, actually, it's 36, and it's getting a little bit older. So, our goal is, we looked at our sports, Ed, and figured out, okay, we've got some of these, but what are some other things that we can do? Because as you and I had talked, and the leadership council has talked, it's not always about the competition. It's about the social aspect of it and the inclusion aspect of it, of of using facilities, but interacting with others. And so that's what the senior athletes / masters is all about.
And Mark, when it comes down to it, it's not just about competing. It's about being part of a team, having those social outings, having the confidence to go out there and throw a beanbag for a cornhole, or having the confidence to go in the grocery store and do your own shopping. It transitions to the outside world, you know?
Correct. You hit it right on the head. And, and we, and if COVID hasn't taught us anything over the last year, the one thing that we find critical is we need each other, right? Mm-hmm. The interaction, the conversations back and forth, but also, just like you said, it's the social aspect of it, but bringing that confidence to other aspects of our life, from from going shopping to let's go to the park and let's interact with other, seeing different events and being a part of that, and getting back to not only normalcy, but kind of what I see as that next step of just being that, if that makes sense.
So do you think like the cornhole, because the cornhole was kind of adapted for the pandemic and stuff, it's kind of brought on because of the pandemic and stuff, different sports were brought on because of the pandemic. Do you think that will stay in place, or do you think like cornhole go away, or do you think that will stay in there? Or?
Well, I'm the team is looking at it. I would be extremely confident that cornhole will stay, and then we'll look at others. We'll kind of, what we're going to do is do a few demonstration days. And, we'll have one up here where we're going to try all of these different events and then get feedback of, do you like, do you not like? Everything that we've done when we look at these events is either you can do it inside or outside. So if it's a rainy day, we can do cornhole in the basement or wherever. The same thing with our other events from a modified shuffleboard to horseshoes. You can do inside and outside. There's the 5 or 6 sports that we looked at. The biggest goal was interaction, social, but also give you that ability to compete a little bit, but it's not that high level sort of thing.
Yeah. So maybe that would be good for like the senior athletes, or some of the age athletes, because some of them can't run the 50 meter anymore, or some can't run the 100 meters. So so some of that stuff.
And as you stated earlier, Ed, most of these are set up so it's kind of unified in the aspect of you and a family member, you and a friend, and it's the social aspect and the inclusion aspect of it, doing it whether it be at a park or a VFW or wherever. And it's kind of utilizing the resources, but the interaction, and then interaction with everybody within the community.
And then there's a statistic that really got to me, and it really kind of touched me right here. And I didn't know about the statistics, but and I'm not saying this about any of our athletes, but it was just kind of a shocking statistic. Like 78% of our athletes it's in the 70 percentile that are obese. That we need to take care of better. We need to look out for their health better. We need to look at what we're doing as an organization better.
Correct. And that's part of, and I'm glad you brought that up, Ed, because that's part of the senior athletes. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about is it's not only the sport itself, but the nutrition that goes with it. And and we're going to talk about that. Brittany, who is our director of training, will talk a little bit about the nutrition aspect of it as part of this program. So as you explained, there's just because we're outside interacting, we also need to take care of ourselves. We want everyone to be around as long as possible, and so proper nutrition and
that's why we stopped having sodas at events. We used to have sodas at the state games and stuff, and
yes. So. But we're also going to talk at the conference on dealing with negativity and loneliness.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the Dr. Weber session with Dr. Weber?
Yes, he's actually the school superintendent for Port Washington, but he travels all around the U.S. talking on how to deal with negative people. But he also talks here on, he's going to talk to us on dealing generally with negativity that we all have to deal with, in addition to the loneliness, and especially if we've all kind of gone through this for the last year, and how to deal with this. And
to be honest with you, it's felt like a couple of years because it's been such a long year.
Yes. And so he's going to do a lot of, a lot of interaction, but just talking about how you or family members or anybody can deal with how to deal with negative people and how to deal with that negative negativity, but also the loneliness and how to kind of take that step and this kind of relates a little bit on the inclusion aspect of it and the senior athletes. We're all trying to kind of build on,
because some people have trouble. I don't mean to interrupt, but some people have trouble leaving their apartment to make a friend or go down the hall, and it's because of the pandemic, because they're scared of getting sick. Am I going to get sick? Yeah. Or is it, am I still contagious from the, a lot of people aren't educated about the pandemic. They hear stuff on the news and they get it drained in their brain. Oh, if I touch this, I'm going to get sick or that, whatever,
Yeah. And so it's how to deal with that. I'm really excited about his, and then he's got and we'll have some nice, great giveaways throughout the day. We're giving away 3 complete kits for senior athletes, all of them. We're giving away a book recommended by Dr. Weber on dealing with negative people. One of our board members wrote a book, and we're giving them a couple of those things out and some other items throughout the conference as well. So,
what's some of the other sessions that we haven't covered yet?
The other kind of sessions we have is when I'm going to be talking to the local programs, I'm referring to it as lighten the load. And this is talking about creating a agency management or a local program team, which includes getting athletes onto that management team to help run a local program. So like what we're doing in all of our committees, making sure that we have athletes as part of that because of your insight, the information that you provide us is so valuable. Well, that needs to go down to the local program as well. So we're going to talk a little bit about that of kind of creating this team, but part of that team is having an athlete or two as part of that, so they understand what you all go through when you're planning your practices and your transportation and helping with fundraising and all of that. And then we have a few awards that we'll be giving away at the end of the session.
Yeah. And is it hard to retain agency managers, Mark? Is it hard to keep them coming back because it's not a paid position, so it's hard to retain them because it takes a lot of work to be an agency manager?
Yes, it does, and that's a great question, Ed. And it all depends. We have 30 plus school programs, and that's a paid position by the school, so we have no control over hiring or firing or anything like that. And in our local programs, a lot of them are family members that have taken on the role as a local program manager. But as we all age, it's trying to find those replacements. And as you stated, there's a lot of work that goes into it, and we do our best to help with training and conversations and doing things to make it as easy as possible. But as you stated, it is difficult to find those because you're looking at 10 to 20 hours a week doing just Special Olympic stuff, in addition to they have jobs already and they're parents, or family members. So you kind of put that all together and
if somebody that doesn't know what that means, watching it, that means fundraising, that means monitoring their medicals, making sure they're up to date, making sure their code of conduct's up to date. It's all the piece of the pie,
Yep, and that's why we talk on, and we'll talk on making sure that you have people to do that. Have someone that just works on the athlete medicals. Have someone that does, just kind of sets up, gets the facilities and does the codes of conduct. So, spreading it so more people are helping out to make it everything easier, with that. And here's a prime example of what you're doing, Ed, of this Zoom meeting and using technology where you don't have to get in the room, but you can have a meeting to say, okay, here's what's going on for the upcoming season. Ed, give me your input on, what we should do for practices. Someone else is going to talk about here's where we are with volunteers. And so, it all helps where if we have a few people helping, we need one person in charge, but if there's other people helping, that makes life a little easier.
Yeah, that's where I think the agency managers kind of get burned out because they think they have to do it all, and some are stuck doing all because they have a hard time finding volunteers.
Correct. And it's getting more and more difficult, to find those.
You think maybe in the future that, I know Special Olympics is a nonprofit organization, but do you think sometime in the future that they would offer coaches a stipend to, I'm not trying to predict the future, but a stipend to.
That's been a topic of discussion. It's higher up the food chain than I am, so I know multiple states are talking with it and what we can and can't do and all of that.
And I know there's legal reasons why I can't and can, and yeah. Another thing I want to talk about is, are you gonna have a volunteer session for volunteers or
for
like, for volunteers that wanna like help out at events or any type of training?
Yeah, we're doing a couple of things. We're working on creating several videos of, if you're doing these kind of events, here's how it, here's what's required. Doing, like you had mentioned, we're going to have someone explain it, show it, make those available, but also when based on the regions and stuff. So when Kurt says, okay, I'm in need of volunteers, that when that happens, then we do that training based on the sport, and a lot of that becomes the day of training because it's a little bit easier. We try not to overtax, but there are some that are a little bit more elaborate that we're working on creating videos for that and making it available on our website for kind of just general reference and such.
Just to put my 2 cents in as far as volunteers go, I think they need to be trained more on, and you can take notes when I'm talking here. I think they need to be trained more like on maybe sensitivity sometimes, because sometimes the volunteers don't know how to approach somebody in a wheelchair, or they get scared. Like, I'll try to talk to them. It'll be a volunteer, and they're like, he's in a wheelchair. Can he, should I talk to him or should I not? That's I see that a lot, and I'm like, why should you be intimidating me because I'm in a chair? I can talk. It's like I'm out with my partner, and they're like, they'll most likely talk. I'm talking about the grocery store. They'll most likely talk to my partner, but they won't talk to me.
Yeah. Understand, and that's a great point, and I made a note of it, and I will bring it up to our team as well. We've kind of talked about that and trying to figure out how do we go about doing that. And then what we'll do is we'll reach out to other states to see what kind of, if they've created something already, because you know how it is. Sometimes it's easier to steal something than create it yourself. If it already exists, we can implement it a whole lot quicker than if we have to self-create.
Yeah, is there anything else we want to cover here in the last 20 some seconds we got left here?
Nope, I'm good. I again thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it. I'm, in the future, I'd like to be asked back. We'll get something going on where, once kind of give some updates and.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me, Mark.
Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Bye.